This video is sponsored by Squarespace. What's going on, guys? Vincent here from thecreativedojo.net. Hope you're doing well out there. Today in this video, we're talking about long shadows within After Effects, how to create these really nice long shadows. Now, I have shown in the past video tutorials on how to create these nice long shadows using something called like a CC radio fast blur and a matte choker effect. That will give you a result very similar to this, very nice long flat shadows, except it's not as straight, it's more radial. It looks a little bit more natural for a lot of certain cases. But there are some times where you don't really want that radial obtuse look. You kind of want these really straight, kind of flat, straight shadows. And so this technique, this kind of method will do that a little bit better than the CC radio fast blur method. But they're both very viable options. So I'll link to that tutorial down below on how to create that. This method is a little bit different. This is actually a complete clone of what I saw from Plugin Everything's kind of tutorial on how to do this. So they have their own little plugin called Shadow Studio, which basically does this and a lot more from a plugin perspective. They did a tutorial on how to create kind of a flat shadow effect using just built-in effects. And this is basically that with a minor tweak to it and kind of packaged into a little preset right here. So I know there are tons of video hype presets out there that kind of do the same thing and a lot more. And this is just kind of my take on it. So it kind of forces me to kind of have it on my system and be responsible for it. Because I don't really use this effect that often, but I do use it often enough to where I would find it a preset kind of helpful. Then I have to dig through my downloads folder and find the preset I use in the past and so on and so forth and Google search it. And so this is just kind of a way for me to kind of like have a preset on my system that will always be there because I kind of made it. But again, I don't really take any credit for it. This is just kind of like a tweaked up version of what I saw from Plugin Everything in their tutorial into kind of like a little handy preset right here. But as you can see, it works with animations just fine. This little type animation right here is actually created using another one of my presets called Typeflow. So if you want to create really nice, smooth, easing, oscillating, delayed type stuff like this, check out my Typeflow presets. Again, it's a name your own price. There's presets also name your own price. And so basically kind of how it works is basically you have a transform effect right here that kind of rotates and transforms and creates this shadow, right? So you're creating this kind of offset. And then you're using the minimax effect and kind of using the alpha channel to kind of generate and kind of crush the alphas. And so you're basically using the minimax effect to kind of create this long shadow right here. And then we're using a second transform effect to kind of offset the shadow and put it back into position to kind of negate the transformation that we did. And then from there, we're filling the whole thing one solid color. And then in my own preset, I added a gradient ramp as an option for the colorizing option. More on that later. I added a linear wipe so that we can create kind of like a nice little fall off right here. And then we're going to composite this shadow onto the original layer using CC Composite. So that's basically all it does. This is covered in the Plugin Everything tutorial, and I'm kind of showing it to you right now. So there's no secret sauce or anything. This has been done, I'm sure, a million times. And so this is kind of like the long shadow preset, and pretty much works on everything: layers, text layers, shape layers, images, whatever. And it uses kind of like the alpha channel to kind of generate this here. And so what we have are options to control the distance. So, you know, we can tone the distance down to make the shadow a lot shorter. So you can have no shadow. You can have like 100 for a distance. You kind of get this kind of like shorter shadow here. You have the angle of the shadow, which can change like this. You can animate this, do whatever you want. You can change the opacity of the shadow, so you can turn it off down to like 50% if it's too heavy for you. Set it to 100%. And then we have the color of the shadow, so we can change this to, you know, whatever you want, like a blue or whatever. You can have that going on. Or if you don't want to have a solid color, you can go down into the color gradient. I'm going to turn off the fall off for now and enable the color gradient right here. And this will create a nice little color gradient. And so you can pick the, you know, start and end colors. And the downside to this is that you need to define a start and end point. So, you know, you can define a start point as, you know, the top right side, and then change the end point to like down here. And you can just change the way the gradient looks and so on and so forth. Now, the downside is that if your object moves or whatever, that you might need a keyframe the start and end points, or use some clever expressions to kind of link things together, which I may do in the next update of this preset. So this is the color gradient option. You can use it to colorize and create some weird, you know, retro graphics or whatever. And then of course you have the basic fall off, which uses the linear wipe. And same thing here. This is kind of like the threshold point or the cutoff point. So you can really define at what point does the fall off really start. And so you can make it pretty tight like that. And then you can change the feather amount to, you know, 500, or, you know, a shorter fall off would be like 100 feather. And that would be very soft, or 50. And you're kind of just playing around with the cutoff point and then adjusting the feather appropriately. So it's kind of like a balancing act. And then of course you can change the fall off angle as well. By default, typically if you're doing stuff like text, typically you want the fall off angle to be kind of from the top down because the light source is assuming from the top basically. But depending on your angle, you may need to adjust the fall off angle to kind of match the light source and have the angle fall off that way. But by default, 0 works pretty well for a lot of light sources if they're kind of based on the top here. Also, side note, you can actually use the long shadow preset not to just create shadows, but also to create kind of like flat 2D extrusions. So if you're trying to create like basic flat 2D extrusions, nothing too complicated, you don't need like specular highlights or anything like that. You can actually use this to create kind of like extrusions like what I did here in the original demonstration, where it's kind of very, very subtle. But if we go ahead and increase this into like, 20 or something, you can create some really nice extrusions, some 3D text, 3D objects, 3D shapes very easily using the long shadow preset. So don't just think of it as like a shadow preset, but something to kind of extrude things as well. And so this is the long shadow preset from the Creative Dojo. Nothing new, nothing revolutionary. It may not have all the cool bells and whistles, but it gets the job done. It creates the long shadows, and you can download it over at creativedojo.net. It's name your own price. You can enter $0 if you want to get it for free, or just donate whatever you want for it. But this is the long shadow preset. Feel free to download and have it, save it onto your system. Before I go, I want to give a quick thanks to our sponsors over at Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. Squarespace is the one platform to create an amazing website, whether it's for your store, online business, or portfolio. They have amazing themes to choose from. They're fully customizable so you can make it the way you want it to look like without having any coding knowledge required. They have awesome 24-hour support, and best of all, use promo code Dojo at checkout. You can actually save 10% off your order and support the Dojo, so check it out over at squarespace.com/dojo. Squarespace, the #1 place to create an amazing website. So this is the long shadow preset. Check it over at creativedojo.net. We have a ton of other presets as well as scripts and tools, so check those out on the website. And if you guys want something more advanced or a more advanced type shadow-based plugin, with a lot more bells and whistles and features, check out Plugin Everything's Shadow Studio. It's pretty cool. I haven't used it. They haven't sponsored me or anything. They haven't even given me a review copy or anything like that yet, but Subscribe for more videos like this. Hit the bell icon, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below for the YouTube algorithm. My name is Vincent Wynn from the Creative Dojo, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.